I'm intern Dean Jim Sherwood, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 6th annual prototype competition. And I want to say, I apologize that I didn't get around to seeing all of the projects. I think I saw about 2/3 of them, and I was really impressed. And especially impressed by the freshmen, the quality of work that went into the projects and the great ideas that you had. I think everybody should get a trophy. Okay, so the T-ball part of the evening is over. And now it's my responsibility to say who the top, from the preliminary judges, these are the top 5, and in no special order that I'm going to announce them. So what I do want to say is, before I forget, each team is going to have 10 minutes to give their presentation. 5 minutes to give the presentation, 5 minutes for answering questions. And so the timekeeper, when you have 1 minute left, is going to hold this up. So we realize you've got 1 minute, start winding down, and when 5 minutes is up, time is up, and you've got to stop. So Diana right here is going to be the timekeeper. So, is there anything else I need to do besides announce the 5 finalists? Don't want to miss anything here. All right, so here they are. Imagine a drum roll in your head. Cat nap. Concussion sensor. OTDCs. The smart safety outlet. And the stand assist belt.
Called the Community Ambulation Tool Mat, or the CAT Mat. My name is Michelle. This is Katie Hughes. We're both physical therapists and co-founders of this company. And then these are Nick, Tyler, and Travis. We have 2 engineers and a business major on board with us.
So we have conducted our own research and found that over 35 million Americans each year have a diagnosis that negatively affects their daily. This can range from anything such as a neurological disorder, for example, a stroke, or something as common as aging, which can take a toll on a person's ability to walk properly. So we surveyed 50 physical therapists, and 100% responded that gait-impaired patients would benefit from training on uneven terrain. Yet 80% found it challenging to simulate this terrain, and 73% said that was due, in part, to a lack of functionally accurate simulation devices. So from our own research and personal experience in clinics, we have concluded that there is currently no lightweight, cost-effective, easy-to-use device that physical therapists can use to train their patients functionally to community ambulate, also known as walking outdoors. The Aerex Balance Pad is the most comparable product on the market, but it lacks several vital gait training properties. For instance, it's not safe to walk on multiple paths, and it doesn't simulate an outdoor environment.
So our solution to this pain point is the CAT Mat. So this CAT Mat was designed for physical therapists to safely and directly treat their patients so that they can walk outdoors again. It'll help them improve their movement patterns, also improve the strength in their legs, and work on balance strategies. So these mats are 1 square foot interlocking mat pieces, and they consist of a compressive top layer, and they are filled with various sizes of compressible beads. So this creates a walking outdoors feel for the patient because with each step they take, the beads inside disperse, making it feel like an ever-changing terrain. Another strong aspect of this mat is that it has the interlocking pieces, makes it modular, so that way it can be built as long or as wide as desired for individual patient needs. So, one of our professors said that we live or die on outpatient referrals. This mat will help physical therapists and the patients that they treat walk again. So basically, to be more specific, in outpatient clinics, The primary drive of business is to increase a patient's referrals. And to increase patient referrals, we really need to help them improve their functionality and their quality of life in a quicker, more efficient way. And the CAT mat will help them with that. And then in hospitals and other inpatient facilities, the primary drive of business is to get their patients discharged as quickly, safely, and efficiently as possible. The CAT mat will do that for them as well.
So on the left, we have listed our current resources, which includes cash prizes, as well as legal services and other entrepreneurship services. And on the right, we have what we're currently working on and our upcoming projects. And with $2,500 from Difference Maker, we'd be able to continue funding our prototyping as well as our patenting process.
Thank you so much for listening. If you guys have any questions, please let us know.
So actually, would you, could you describe the treatment plan that you would use for this?
Yeah, so we were kind of thinking that it could work for a multitude of patients. Let's say someone has a stroke and they just need to learn how to walk again. You can put 10 or 20 of those mats, put them together inside parallel bars, and they can just walk on them and learn how to walk on uneven terrain again. It can also help people with ankle sprains improve their balance. They would need like 1 to 2 mats. So that's why this is very valuable to many different settings, because you can just buy a couple and it'll help with more things like that'll help with muscular strengthening, and then things that help with kind of actually relearning movement patterns.
I'll go next. In terms of the competitive landscape, how much of those products, because you say you're cost effective, just want to get a sense of range of what the solutions out there look like now when it comes to cost?
Sure. So we did some research and we found that the most competitive product that we have is a treadmill that's at least $10,000. So for smaller clinics, it's really not feasible. And there is a big treadmill. You're not going to really fit something like that in a clinic. But mats like this, we're thinking about $50 to $60 to make. So it'll be a lot cheaper to sell.
And as we mentioned, the Eric's Bounce Pad, which would be found in most small outpatient clinics, that costs about $80 to make, but again, it doesn't provide the functionality that our mat would.
And if you're a facility that's dealing with diverse patients that have different functional needs, how many of these mats, do you need a certain set of mats for a certain type of functional need versus another one? How can it be used to be approved for a large population?
Yeah, so we're basically setting it up so that when you can purchase them, you can purchase a singular mat if you want, or you can purchase different package deals. Right now, we're working on creating gravel, like types that simulate gravel, and types that simulate sand. You can mix and match these, or you can have them just walk on one surface. You can also buy as many as you want and build a huge section on the ground, or you can just use 1 or 2. And then the nice thing about them is they're going to be lightweight, so you can just stack them up and put them in a corner, so it won't really be hard to store.
And it's going to be based on what kind of patients they're seeing. Are they doing more gait training with their patients, with their neurospecialized clinic, or would they just simply be using this as a balance and strengthening thing, in which they need just a couple?
Thank you.
So how many different variations would you have?
Right now we're thinking of creating 3, so gravel and sand, as we had mentioned, and then grass.
But the sky's the limit. We have an open mind with this.
Yeah, that's what we found from our customer discovery interviews that clinics were most interested in.
Yeah, well, first off, I wanted to start off by saying great job, ladies. I've seen you pitch before, and the pitch has definitely come a long way, and great to see your team expanding. Is that a prototype? Would we be able to see it?
Yeah.
Take a closer look.
So that's a concept prototype. So just to give you an idea of what the mat would look like.
Has a see-through bottom, so you can see the different pieces that we have there.
Very cool. Now, can we go back to the financial slide? What I want to understand is what else, how much more funding would you need to get to a real product after prototyping? So I see you've got the legal covered with some of this extra funding. But what else from a manufacturing standpoint? Have you guys thought about manufacturability or like that manufacturing?
Yeah, so At this point, it does look like we have a fair amount of cash assets, but we're entering the stage where we're actually coordinating with the Nerve Lab, and with them, we're actually going to be needing to develop large-scale prototype setups that we're able to test a similar size of mats to their own setups in sand and gravel. So specifically, while we're working with them, it costs us money to work with them per hour on that basis, as well as it's going to cost us to both develop the prototypes to the amount that we would be able to test them with the Nerve Lab, and then based on our results from that testing, then develop further numbers of prototypes. Because one of the issues with developing a map like this is that because we expect one of the use cases to be walking on it at a fair distance, we can't just say develop one model at a time and then that's good, that's it, we'll just test on that. You have to be able to walk on it. So at a minimum, you need probably 6 to 8 of each batch to really test that and really get good data to determine whether or not this is a feasible solution.
Absolutely. No, wonderful.
Thank you.
One quick question, in holding the prototype, do you have any concerns that the edges are rigid and the center is where you're trying to get the malleability for the foot? And what's going to happen when they hit that the wrong way?
Yeah, so that is one of the concerns we were working on. Part of our expected use for this is going to be in clinical settings where you have a physical therapist working with your patient at the same time. So working on foot placement, working to make sure that they're not going to stumble and fall. One of the things that we're going to be working on as we work towards our full-scale prototypes and testing them in a walking environment is changing the thickness of the various parts. We have our current mold actually is modular or variable in terms of how thick that centerpiece is. So we're actually going to be doing some testing on how flexible it is and how much that affects your ability to walk in if that would cause you to say stumble or not stumble.
Is there any reason why did you pick 1 square foot?
Really, it's the modular nature of it. We wanted a surface that was large enough that if you just had 1 or 2, you could do some more of the physical therapy work that you'd say do on an AirX balance pad, which is sized that you can step on with both feet and step off and not have an issue. Additionally, most offices are scaled to tiles that are about 1 foot in nature. So by using 1 foot by 1 foot, it's very easy for clinicians to see what they had and very easy to think to themselves, okay, well, if I got this, how would I be able to fit in my clinic?
Okay, time.
That's up.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Yami.
I'm Devin Hardigan.
I'm Tatiana. I'm Sarah Chen.
And we are biomedical engineering majors, and we are freshmen. I'm a sophomore. And our project is about concussion sensor. So our problem that we're working on is that in high-impact sports, players usually get a lot of concussions, and sometimes they downplay the symptoms of concussion because they don't want to get kicked out of the game or put out of the game. So they downplay the symptoms, and this can lead to future concussions and also future neurological diseases. So there's a statement that says between 1.6 and 3.8 million sports-related concussive injuries occur annually in the United States, which means that it is a really significant problem, specifically in the United States.
So throughout our research, we saw that linear acceleration and angular acceleration are 2 main factors that determine the severity and the presence of a concussion. So linear acceleration is more of a direct hit, and that shows a lot of stress on the skull, which can cause the skull fracture. But an angular acceleration is more of the whiplash force that the head experiences, so how fast the head rotates, and that causes significantly more stress on the brain. So we wanted to create a device that could measure both the linear acceleration and the angular acceleration of the player's head that any player can wear in order to accurately determine if a player has a concussion in real time.
So who's affected? Concussions happen more in high impact sports, so like football and basketball, and hockey too. So this is where a lot of more TBIs, traumatic brain injuries happen. And so our solution is to place our sensors in a mouth guard. That way we can indirectly measure the movement of the brain. So we're going to we plan to use an accelerometer and a gyroscope. These are two different types of sensors. And this would measure the acceleration and then ultimately measuring the brain movement.
Yeah, so here is a design of our prototype. As you can see here, we have a mouth guard, and then this blue, the first blue square inside the mouth guard is a breadboard, and then attached to the breadboard is the accelerometer and the gyroscope. And then we have wires feeding through the mouth guard into the Arduino, which connects to a computer. So in the future, we would obviously want to minimize the amount of wires, we want to reduce the size, so it's all in just the mouth guard, and it can fit into any player. And we would also want that, the mouth guard to be connected to a computer via a Bluetooth connection, so anyone, so any coach can see the data that the device is reading and can take the player out of the game, so they have proper time to rest. Any questions? Yes.
Do these components that we need exist right now in the size that we need, or do you have to build these?
Yes, so there is research being done where there is just a mouth guard with an accelerometer and a gyroscope with a battery attached, and it's very simple and concise that can fit in just in one mouth guard. So there is technology out there. Ours just looks very complicated and messy because we have this Arduino system which connects the device to the computer. So we would want to adapt something similar to have it into just a mouth guard. So we're reducing the wires, reducing the size.
So you have to invent that. That doesn't exist.
Yes, there is technology out there that is that small. I mean, the gyroscope and accelerometer already exists. It would be more just finding the components that fit properly and are small enough to fit in the mouth guard.
First, I want to congratulate you guys. People have talked about this before, but they've always tried to put in helmets. And by doing that, the real customer for it was the helmet makers. And there's some different challenges for them with wanting sensors like this in their helmets. But you've come up with a solution that bypasses that in the mouth guard. And the mother's kind of customer.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a much different problem solved. So I want to recognize that because this is actually pretty exciting from my perspective.
Yeah. One of our main reasons why our first idea was to put it on a helmet, but we wanted to move away from that because helmets, the readings on helmets are 10 times more, there's 10 times more acceleration because the player, because the helmet is not attached to the head, so the helmet is constantly shifting, whereas a mouth guard is stable in the mouth and is less likely to cause irregular accelerations and is going to have a more active movement.
Okay. So excellent. My question is, how do you expect the data to be stored or communicated? Is it a real-time communication? Or is it stored?
Yeah, so it's our Arduino processes it at about one line of data per half a second in real time. So as the device is running, in theory, we would want the data to be already converted into something that's nice, cookie cutter information on a tablet that a coach can read and say, okay, they've experienced this collision, they have a concussion, we'll take them out. So it is in real time and it is about every half a second. So it would be like as the collision occurs, and like just immediately after, they would know.
There may be some technical challenges with being able to have a range, that communication, but.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
you'll
we would
get
have
that,
to.
I'm sure. Sorry, I took up a lot of time.
In terms of the accuracy of measuring usually the multis as the anchor point to kind of test it, so certain concussions you won't be able to detect. So I'm thinking rather than mouth, maybe the whiplash was someone hits in the back, or get hit inside, there's going to be different type of measurements as you go. Have you thought about the translation of different types of plates to detect the concussion? Versus some of those.
Yeah, so we're not measuring kind of the hit on any other part of the body except the head. And since the mouth guard is very stable in the mouth, it's going to measure the acceleration, linear rotational acceleration of the head, of the skull, which indirectly measures the acceleration of the brain. So it would be how, whether or not you're hit from like the back, from if your leg swept out from underneath you, it's reading whatever the head is, whatever the head is happening to the head.
I don't have a minute. Did someone else have a question before I ask another one?
Quick question, and great job, ladies. I think it's a very good product. My question is, one, can we see the prototype? Two, what is your background? Engineers, computer science, business? And the third question is, have you researched competitors? I have heard of some company that is doing the same exact thing, so I'm curious if you guys have heard about them and how you're different. But we'd love to see the prototype.
I think, I'm not sure if we're talking about the same company, or I don't think they are a company, or it's just a research project, but another research, they had the accelerometer, the gyroscope within a mouthpiece, and they were using it more for the result of reducing concussions, so slowing down how fast the head is moving. Our purpose for this device is for the coaches to know in real time when a player has a concussion and to take them out of the field. The main reason for this is that the device itself is very cost effective and it can be easily implemented into all sports if it is just a mouth guard and into all ages.
You guys are all just to work on this fall.
Yes.
Hands up.
Thank you so much.
Hello everybody, my name is Ian Ramsdell.
And I'm Dylan Alja.
We are both U.S. military veterans, and we are Odysseys, Overtrained Deployed Scuba Entry Egress System. In 2014, I was medically retired as a wounded warrior. I had served my country for 15 years before I was told that I was no longer physically able to do this anymore. And what also happened was during that recovery, I had a new word enter my vocabulary that I'd never heard before. I mean, I went through Navy SEAL training. Didn't make it through successfully because I had a bad shoulder, but I still tried it. That word was I can't. I learned that very early on and realized that I never wanted to ever have someone say that or hear that again. I discovered a problem. After I was trying to reintegrate back into society, the current issue veterans have, I was lost, aimless, and trying to find my way. So I discovered an organization that provided scuba diving certifications for wounded, ill, and injured, and any veteran, not just disabled veterans. Through this organization, I also discovered another thing, my limitations. I went from having to now carry over 150 pounds of scuba gear over very bad terrain. This terrain included 6 5-foot drops, sheer rock faces with crumbling rock. And what I realized was that I was having this problem. Every other disabled diver was having it, including my brothers and arms, these double and triple amputees that I'd love to do so much with in regards to recreational therapy. The other problem was there was no heavy equipment for this option, and it makes it difficult access for all divers. This isn't just difficult for disabled divers. Any diver's going to have difficulty on this terrain. So the opportunity we found was that there's no product on the market right now for this. We have a couple hand carts with small wheels. One's made out of $12 of PVC pipe that you can buy from Home Depot. It sells for $300 if anybody's interested. This solves a very large problem. It allows us to bring more inclusivity to disabled people and bring them into environments. A lot of these people have never thought they would ever be in the field. It has additional uses outside its primary market besides just being able to be a recreational device for disabled individuals to bring them in these events. We can potentially use this for home ownership. Say you have a green thumb and you like doing a lot of yard work. You go to Lowe's, get 20 bags of mulch, and you don't feel like carrying it across that big acre lawn you had to have. You can attach this device to your vehicle, attach the other end to a fixed object like a tree, and zip it line over real quickly with utilizing the zip line. We have been debating on the lightweight product line. The biggest issue with this is weight and leverage. So as we develop the heavyweight version further, we're going to also be developing a lightweight product line. As of right now, there's 2.7 to 3.5 million active divers in the United States alone. That's a pretty big market for us to delve into. If we sold one of these to 1 in 4 divers, the target market was close to over $100 million. So, and every year, sorry about the typo, there's 1.5 million new divers entering the U.S. market alone. There's 16 million across the world globally.
So the product we are trying to sell is a portable zipline system. This system will connect to the trailer hitch in your truck and go down to a line by the ocean. This line can connect to any mooring buoy or rod anchor, and essentially what you will be doing is loading your scuba gear onto the zip line and guiding it down. So now instead of having that load on your back as you're trying to traverse this rocky terrain and possibly debalancing yourself and falling over, you can just use this as a support as you climb down safely. Currently, we have a pre-sale with a local nonprofit. This nonprofit supports other divers and veterans. They provide lessons and scuba activities to disabled veterans like Ian. In our toolbox, we already have relationships with a lot of scuba enthusiasts and business located in Massachusetts. We currently have a working prototype. We're hoping to start testing it out in April. We're looking for some funding to purchase some more zipline equipment, including a zipline braking equipment and a harness to carry the gear.
Any questions? Please, questions. I have all these appendix slides I built for you guys, please.
Can you take us through the setup and use of it? I saw the attachment.
Yeah, I apologize. It's a little bit larger, and in the crowd, we couldn't really bring it in here. So if you want to see it, as soon as we leave, we're straight down there in the hall. We'll be around.
The time and effort to kind of set it up, we're going to take something, keep them on to the water.
Yep. So, yeah, go ahead.
So typically when divers will dive, they will dive in groups or pairs. With disabled divers, you usually have some sort of scuba dive instructor that will be diving with them. So they'll be able to set up a system themselves for usage.
So normally what happens is if we have a large amount of disabled divers, normally you do these things in large groups so you can get the most amount of volunteers to help you out and provide the most amount of services to the most amount of people. So you gather 10, 15 disabled individuals, bring them out there, but you also have all your support staff, your able-bodied individuals. So as soon as we arrive on scene and the vehicle gets stationed, somebody can immediately walk down and attach to a mooring buoy that's in the water, which is the most ideal situation. Or we can attach it to a large rock, which is very common. In some of these locations, even already have attached fixed locations. From somewhere in our history, somebody was attaching something to that shoreline. So it's quite common to find these giant rocks there with large holes bored through them.
Would that already be attached to the truck, or would you?
Yes, this would be. This is safe enough to travel while it's attached to the vehicle. So just like any other hitch attachment, like a bicycle unit or something else like that. Yep.
So, if I didn't bring this up, I would be remiss. I really question your demand.
The demand?
Yeah, I'm a diver.
Oh, no.
So when I look at this, I see a group of divers can use this, so not 1 in 4 divers. I see.
Yes.
So that's.
I said that. what I said earlier was if 1 in 4 divers. The most ideal situation is 1 out of a group of divers would purchase one of these, or maybe a group of friends would get together and have one. As a diver, you dive regularly with the same people over and over again. Because of trust issues, you may have those people that you know for a fact can rely under pressure. But this isn't just a dive product, that's the thing. This is, initially it started off as a recreational therapy product. One to help us bring to recreational therapy programs so they can introduce these people to these things. But in the process, we also realized that there's a potential to sell it to divers as well. And out of the initial, when we did the initial research after we received funding with Difference Makers, and she was in our summer boot camp as well, gave us a bunch of ideas, I went to the local dive shop that I'm a part of and spoke to a bunch of the active divers. And they said that this sounds like a solution they would want. 90% of the respondents said that carrying the gear and accessing the dive site were the biggest pain points. So, as you know. And then I did an online survey for a 20,000 group member of a scuba diving group. And out of that, the majority of the legitimate answers were all pointing towards accessing the site and carrying the gear as the biggest pain points. So that's the reason why I move forward. While you do have the experience, and I love hearing it, I have at the same time 15 other divers telling me that they're trying to build this behind my back. So it's difficult to say what is it until we can get more research out there and get it out there.
You just really have to test yourself on that.
And I 100% agree, and that's why I'm hoping we can test ourselves as best as possible.
So, you need a lot of tension on that line, right, to be able to carry 100 pounds of gear on it.
Yes.
They just sag to the bottom.
Yes.
How do you do that? How are you going to create that?
So I already created some preliminary force calculations using Excel. About 100-pound load on a level surface will create about 1,000 pounds force on the top right there. And using solvers, I know there are better tools out there. I'm going to be using it again for analysis. We would be able to support a 100-pound load with the setup that we have right now. And what we're looking for is a little more funding so we can develop the idea of purchase and fine-tune our design to hopefully support something that's, maybe we can get a disabled diver on the system so they can just lower them straight into the water.
And for tension, right now, we currently have a boat winch, the one that we utilize to pull your boat onto your trailer. It was the closest I could find for a small amount, up to 1,000 pounds. The only problem is the spool's too small, so we need a larger spool, so we're going to have to design a larger version. And eventually, it may even be an option for an upsell, is to have a motorized version as well.
Incredible job, Ian. The presentation has come a very long way. It's a great job. It was very entertaining in the beginning as well. I loved your tone of voice. You captured our attention on the stage immediately. I love that you pointed out that there's potential additional use cases, not just scuba diving. And I wanted to hear a little bit more about that. I think it's always very important to try and look at the bigger picture of not just, okay, one use case scenario.
Exactly.
So I'm very impressed that you're doing that, and I'd love to hear more.
Thank you. Unfortunately, the time's up. The other use market that we were looking at was a home ownership model, which would help people move stuff at home, as well as a commercial model that may be available for tradesmen. I say you're working in Boston with brownstones, and you don't want to carry your gear through someone's house because of potential of damaging some expensive wall fixtures or something like that. So there's other options. That's just 2 of them. I'm sure there's even more out there. So thank you very much.
So first of all, I would like to thank you all for coming here. We really appreciate it. So I'm Divyan Suprema. This is David Morwood-Smith, and then we had one other team member who couldn't make it today, unfortunately. But we are the smart safety outfit. So this project actually originally started off as an electrical engineering entrepreneurship capstone that we kind of decided to expand on and bring it into fruition. We recognize this problem. As you can see here, floor polisher, hospital beds. This is an article that's actually pretty common. Hospitals have this problem where anybody can come by, unplug something. In this case, a janitor unplugged a life support system to plug in their cell phone charger. There are always inexperienced people in these scenarios and in industrial scenarios as well. And then, of course, at the home, there's always this issue of children around electrical outlets. You can have an alarm clock plugged in, you don't even think about it. This alarm clock is always plugged in, and one day your child comes by, he pulls the alarm clock out of the socket, and then you have an electrical hazard right there. And children are actually automatically drawn to outlets because they look like faces, and there have been psychological studies done on this as well. And this is actually a huge cause of data loss as well in industrial scenarios like server computers and stuff, where somebody can trip over an outlet or a plug, and at that point, there's no real way to bring back that information in the process that was being done. So this is our problem, essentially. And we tried to tackle this by looking at an opportunity that we have that David will elaborate on.
So we realized that currently there's no way to solve or mitigate these problems in our world by means of childproofing power supply outlet in the home, or preventing people from tripping on cables and unplugging devices that are plugged in, and also in the hospital. I've went in the hospital before. Oftentimes you see signs like the one up here, medical supplies, no food or drinks, do not unplug. So we see a great opportunity here to kind of bring a solution to this problem. Currently there's a smart outlet that's in the market, and we decided to incorporate a safety mechanism into that technology that's out there. It's using what you call IoT technology, Internet of Things. So we incorporating the IoT technology and also a locking mechanism into an outlet such that it will go on the regular outlet that we have in the homes and the workplaces. It will interface it. And by means of a hole that is on the plug that we have, we will engage the device that's plugged in to kind of log it in there permanently to avoid accidental unplugging, and also childproofing the outlet to make it safe. So we think that this is a very great opportunity for us to kind of bring a product like this to market, because in the homes, in the schools, in the child care centers, hospitals, and workplaces, we can avoid all these accidental unplugging, and also making power supply outlets safe for our children and all other people. Thank you very much.
So for ISTER, in terms of resources, we're planning on using any funding we get strictly towards this goal that we have. So in order to make this feasible, we need to mass produce these outlets, which means we need a plastic mold to be able to create these at a similar price as current smart outlets. And we've done some analysis on this, and we've actually found that we can, once we have the mold, produce this at about the same price as a regular smart outlet, which immediately puts us a leg above every competition that we have. Unfortunately, the mold is pretty expensive, so for right now, we're planning to put all of the money that we gain towards buying this mold. And we also have done a lot of surveys and went out there and surveyed parents, and we haven't gotten a single parent who hasn't said that they won't buy our outlet. So a big source of future resources will be crowdfunding, but right now we're looking for resources towards creating this mold to actually put this product into mass production.
Thank you very much.
I think I was hidden, but I had no idea you had a prototype, so I was wondering what you were doing. Can you just give a 30-second, what exactly is it?
So,
what are we doing? Sticking something in an outlet?
Yeah, so we actually made a almost
Just the question I have is, are you replacing the standard outlet, or does the standard outlet stay there and you connect something into it? So that thought was not clear.
yeah, so we have two options. One is to, like the one that I have in my hand, it goes on the regular outlet, just goes on there, and by means of a screw, it locks it permanently right there. And then you have the power in your hand by means of an app that is going to come with this on your phone or web-enabled device like a computer. You have the power or the option to turn on power and turn it off, and also to lock in device that's plugged in here and to unlock it remotely.
This device actually already has the software, so when you connect it into the wall, it automatically broadcasts its own Wi-Fi. It's called Smart Safety Outfit, which you can then connect to. It will automatically open up a page on your phone that will ask you to configure your Wi-Fi with it. So you enter in your Wi-Fi username, password, it connects to that, and then no matter where you are, as long as you're on the app, you can control it.
So when you put a prong into it, so that the camera mechanism is, so you can.
Yes, yes. So there's a locking pin here that goes back and forth, in and out, to engage whatever is plugged in here.
And it takes advantage of the hole in the standard Texas HIT plug, which is made, the holes are actually there to provide friction when you plug in something into the wall outlet. So those are definitely usable. We've done quite a bit of research on that. Those are usable to actually hold the device in there.
Definitely a very needed product. I think my question, so I think they'll get a better understanding of it too when I see it. For young children, so my fiance, his cousin, and his nieces and nephews are very young as well, and a lot of times they're intrigued by outlets and they want to go directly towards them. So this has no spaces for them to stick their fingers or anything, or what would this side look like, where it would actually plug things
So
in?
the spaces will be there, but the thing is, it will not be engaged until you go on your phone to turn it on. So it can be there, you can stick a knife, a fork in it. There will not be any electrocution until you, an adult or responsible person, turn on power.
So one of the demonstrations that we're actually doing, you can actually have that plugged into the power strip. And as long as the power is on, you can actually touch those. We can touch them with our fingers. There's nothing there. So there's actually a hardwired relay that will stop all power from coming.
So you can use the center hole that holds the cover plate.
Exactly.
Standard outlet to hold that onto the wall.
Yes, and there are already devices that aren't smart outlets, but devices that already do that. So that's definitely a feasible option. And we're actually thinking about expanding this to cover, so it doesn't just have that one plug insert. It actually has two sockets, so it can match up exactly, and you won't actually lose any functionality from the wall. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Eliza Slocum, and I am a freshman.
I'm Zachary Howdy, I'm also a freshman.
I'm Ari Turez, I'm also a freshman.
And I'm Carrie Stolberg, I'm a junior, and we're all biomedical engineering majors. So anyone who's ever had family in hospitals or nursing homes, if they've ever had any type of like mobility issues, you might have seen the original gate belt, which is this. And it has a lot of safety issues. So I'm just going to put it on Zach so it's easier to see to demonstrate. So one of the main issues is this is just canvas, so it absorbs liquids. So if you're getting any spills or any bacteria on it, it's not easy to clean in between patients because there's not one for every single patient in between in hospitals, and that's already a health risk. And not only is this fall prone, but we also want to reduce injuries to the healthcare workers. So some of the main issues are, as you can see, is because this is not an elastic material and because this is metal, this gap is quite large when he stands up because your waistline expands when you're sitting. But because it's not retracting, this is a huge safety issue, and this has to be tightened before you're taking the person anywhere. So if Zach was actually someone with major mobility issues, he'd have to be hanging on to Eliza while she's trying to tighten this and hold up his body weight at the same exact time. This also puts a lot of pressure on the lower back. So if you have a lot of underweight patients or frail elderly patients, this is putting a lot of strain on their lower back, and which is not their center of mass.
So we see some opportunity with this, with these problems. So currently, gait belts are basically just the national standard throughout various nursing homes, caregiving facilities, etc. But after you see all these problems, I mean, gate belts are helpful, but they have some very bad flaws. So our product aims to provide better safety, comfort, efficiency for the caregiver who's lifting the patient and the patient themselves. Another issue is throughout these nursing homes is, as you just saw with that huge gap that occurs when the patient is finally lifted up, nursing homes and caregiving facilities all get fined for every drop that there is. And this happens more often than you think, so you could actually be cutting costs and being more financially aware by using our product. So we're basically just hoping that this will become a new national standard for standing assistance.
So our solution would be the stand assist belt. So for one, we still have the sturdy canvas underneath this covering, but we have a waterproof nylon ripstop covering over this, which is actually the same material most umbrellas and tents are made out of. So it can withstand any liquid, it can be wiped off between patients to better sanitize, which is important in a healthcare facility. Also, probably wondering what this net is for. So as mentioned before, your center of gravity is your hips and your buttocks. So this seat incorporates that there, so you're putting more force where there's more weight distribution. So instead of putting all your force on the patient's lower back, you're distributing it between their hips and their buttocks when they're being lifted up. And this connection ensures that this is holding tight here. And to solve the problem of the gap, we have an elastic sewn here. So as they're sitting down, the elastic will expand and keeping that same tension as we first put on them without changing the original length of the belt. But as they stand up, it stays snug enough without having to readjust the entire length of the belt again, which is important for patient safety if you're going to be transporting them down the hallway. And then you have the fast release buckle, and we added foam handles on the side. This seat is also completely detachable, because you wouldn't want to have anything hanging off your patient while you're trying to transport them. And we add an elastic to catch any tails, because with this.
So obviously to build the prototype, we used the funds on the different safety project, and we spent a lot of time looking over what materials we want to use, because obviously one of the strongest materials, but also had just an upgrade that we could implement this summer that could buy these and wouldn't shy away from them. And we had a lot of first-hand experience with this interview, which is getting back on our projects, and we wanted to use a lot more 3D printing and to build like a buckle so it's enforced enough, and test a lot more materials.
All right, thanks for your attention. At this time, we'll be taking any questions.
So when you helped him up, you didn't use I didn't see you use the piece that you put around his legs at all. So I didn't understand what that did.
So the seat itself, I actually grabbed it a little bit, but I don't know if I can show you again if that's okay, but it actually put tension like on the buttocks area, so it equally distributed from like the spine area itself.
So you grabbed the mesh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't grab the cord itself. It's more to just give that extra support around the buttocks area.
But you would have to put that on before you sat down, right? You couldn't.
Yes. So I don't know if anybody's ever heard of a Lycolift or a Lycolift, which is a 2-assist type deal. They use those. It's very similar to our product, but it uses a machine to lift the person up. And therefore, you have to turn them to put the same pad underneath. So essentially, we'd probably have to do the same thing with our prototype.
It looks like you built a proverbial mousetrap, but the gate belts are already sold. Have a sense of how many they sell those per year and how much those cost? And So what your product might cost in comparison?
So the gate belt itself, it's very, very common. You go to any sort of caregiving facility, and I can guarantee that they'll have at least one per ward, usually a lot more. For a consumer to purchase a regular gate belt online, for example, it costs from $8 to $10. However, since Karen made the prototype, I think she can tell you a bit more about, like, accurate info about how much this will cost.
So our goal is to only have it cost a little bit extra, because there are gate belts out there with it reinforced handles that are a lot wider, but they're more specific set for size. But those are up into the $20 and $30 range. That's why we incorporated the original like canvas, which is cost efficient. You can get tons of canvas very, very cheap. And as same with the nylon, instead of using the materials that the more expensive gate belts. So it'd probably be more around $12, $15. But with the fall risk that you're saving and saving the hospital's costs, and also with the transfer of germs, I think that hospitals might see the cost benefit to buying one of these.
Thank you.
I know one of you said you're a registered nurse, but have you talked to any other health professionals, gone to a nursing facility and seen if this is?
Yes, I've actually interviewed a physical therapist, and she does home visits. And our idea for the seat actually came from some physical therapists using bed sheets to lift underneath the patient's rear. But bed sheets will ride up, and it's not like standard safety practice, like at all. That's not what they're supposed to be doing. So that's why we want to do something that can be attached but also detached. So they have that safety feature and still that same movement of using like a bed sheet type of thing, but it's a safer way to do that. And your sister?
Yeah, my sister's also a nurse, and I went over the prototype with her, and she said it was definitely beneficial to have the seat.
Yeah, and I also volunteer at Veterans Affairs hospitals on the weekends, so I always see the different ways that nurses and caregivers try to pick up the vets. And usually they don't even use the gate belt just because it's so uncomfortable on the patient. They end up just putting their hands under their arms, lifting them. So gate belts are kind of obsolete at this point.
Yeah, good job you guys describing the problem. I definitely think it's very antiquated and there needs to be a better solution. I'm just still a little bit not clear as to like how Mark described. So how are you essentially, he was standing when you put it on him, so if you have to get him to stand and put it on, I'm just a little confused on that.
So usually when people are transferring, like they're either going from bed to chair, chair to bed. So when they're in the bed, they're like laying back, obviously. You turn them and tuck half the material underneath them, and then they would turn the opposite way, and you would pull the rest of the material through, so it's evenly like on each side.
How long have you guys been working on this?
Since the beginning of the fall semester, since we first got on this, since we first had the team up for our biomed lab classes.
Just a few months.
Yeah, yes, sir.
We definitely have a lot more, but we're willing to do it.
Very nice. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so now our judges will be whisked away to a private room where they will deliberate. I'll be back in about 10 minutes. You gotta be gun shy, that's all. Okay, so the first prize I'm going to announce is the People's Choice Award, and that goes to USAP. Really big checks. The next announcement, or next award, is for the best medical device, and that goes to CatMat. And this award is sponsored by Dr. Steve McCarthy.
Don't sit next to Sally.
So the next award is for third place, and that goes to Stand Assist Belt. And the second place winner is the Smart Safety Outlet. And first place is the concussion sensor. So I'd like to thank the judges once again for the time that they put into this and the good feedback that the teams will be getting from it. And that's it. Good night, everybody.